A Letter to God. Summary. In this story, Lencho, a poor farmer who is hardworking, lives in a remote village. One year, a devastating hailstorm destroys his entire crop, which is his only source of livelihood. He turns to God for help, writing a letter asking for 100 pesos to help him through his hardship. The postmaster and his colleagues, touched by his faith, collect the money to help Lencho, though they only manage to gather about 70 pesos. When Lencho receives the money, he accuses the post office employees of stealing the remaining amount and refers to them as crooks. Despite their kindness, his blind faith in God leads him to overlook the human generosity that helped him. Characters: Lencho, the protagonist, a simple and hardworking farmer who believes unwaveringly in God. His faith is tested by the storm and generosity of others. The postmaster, a compassionate and kind individual who, along with the staff, collects money to help Lencho. The post office employees, workers who help by getting or collecting the money for Lencho's relief. Themes and symbols: faith and irony. Lencho's absolute faith in God contrasts with the irony of his accusation that the very people who helped him are dishonest. This shows how blind faith can sometimes cloud one's judgment. Human generosity and misunderstanding is the second theme. The story explores how people's good intentions are not always recognized or appreciated, as seen when Lencho accuses the well meaning post office staff for dishonesty. Trust and doubt. Lencho's disbelief in God's intervention is unshakable, but he does not trust the people who help him, which highlights the complexity of human nature. So, exam points. The following are the major exam points that one must focus while preparing for the board examinations. Focus on Lencho's unwavering faith in God and how it leads to his ironic mistrust of the employees who are working in post office. Discuss the theme of faith and the irony in Lencho's reaction to the help he receives. Explore the human emotions of generosity, trust, and misunderstanding. Chapter 2: Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. Summary. This chapter recounts Nelson Mandela's journey from his early life in rural South Africa to his rise as a leader in the anti apartheid movement. It details his struggles, imprisonment, and his eventual rise to the presidency, where he became a symbol of peace and unity. Mandela's life is a testament to the enduring power of resilience and the fight for justice. In his inaugural speech, Mandela speaks about the meaning of freedom, emphasizing that it's not just about the absence of oppression, but about living with dignity, equality, and respect for all people. The key points that one must notice are: freedom in three stages. Mandela discusses the concept of freedom in three stages, which are key during his life. Personal freedom. As a young man, Mandela sought to break free from the constraints imposed by colonialism and apartheid on individuals. It was about self liberation and fighting for one's own rights. For his people, now we are going to see the second theme: freedom for his people. As a leader, Mandela fought for the freedom of his people, aiming to end apartheid and bring about equality for black South Africans. His vision was for a society where all people, regardless of race, could enjoy freedom and equality. Third one: freedom for all humanity. In the final stage, after his release from the prison and upon becoming president, Mandela broadened his vision to include all of humanity. He advocated for peace, unity, and reconciliation, seeking the struggle for freedom as a universal cause that transcended national boundaries. He also talks about the second important point, the twin obligations of life. Mandela reflects on what he calls the twin obligations of life as obligation to family and community, number one. He believed in his duty or the duty of individuals to support their families and communities. A person must contribute to the collective good and work for justice and fairness in society. Number two, obligation to fight for freedom. The second obligation is to fight for the freedom of others, especially those who are oppressed. Mandela saw it as his moral responsibility to contribute to the liberation of his people and work toward the justice of society and for a just society. Mandela's view on the oppressed versus the oppressor. Mandela famously, in the last paragraphs of the chapter, argued that both the oppressed and the oppressor lose their freedom. The oppressed, while they suffer under an unjust system, the oppressed also lose their sense of humanity, dignity, and self respect due to the systematic degradation imposed by the oppressor. They are denied the freedom to live their lives with equality. On the other side, the oppressor, on the other hand, these guys, the oppressor, by perpetuating injustice, they also become a prisoner of hatred, prejudice, and fear. Here in the chapter, the Britishers are referred to as the oppressors, who oppressed the South Africans. They too lose their freedom because their minds are imprisoned by oppressive ideologies. So the British are also losing the freedom by oppressing the South Africans. And these Britishers are disconnected from the shared humanity of those they oppress, that is, the South Africans. Coming to the important quotes or important quotations for the exam, Mandela talks about these famous quotes in his lines. I have walked that long road of freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way. This quote represents Mandela's acknowledgement of struggles and challenges he faced throughout his journey towards freedom. It highlights his determination and resilience. Second quote, I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. This metaphorical quote reflects the ongoing nature of the struggle for justice and equality. Even after achieving significant victories, there is always one more work to be done. For the third quote, we have, for to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. This powerful quote highlights Mandela's belief that true freedom is not just about personal liberation, but about ensuring that the freedom of others is upheld as well. Themes and key symbols of this chapter. Number one comes freedom. Mandela's view of freedom is multifaceted. That means it has multiple views. It begins as a personal quest for liberation, that is, from his childhood to his boyhood, and as he grows, but it expands to encompass the collective freedom of the people and the ongoing struggle for human rights. Number two, unity and reconciliation. Mandela's philosophy was one of reconciliation rather than revenge on the oppressors, that is, the British. After spending 27 years in prison, he emphasized the need to unite South Africa, both black and white, to heal the wounds of apartheid that was imposed on them. Number 3 comes resilience and sacrifice. The chapter underscores the theme of resilience with Mandela's long imprisonment symbolizing the sacrifices made for greater cause. His fight for freedom was marked by the cost of personal suffering, yet he remained steadfast in his vision for just society. His vision for a just society, as in for a society which is honest. From the point of exam, the following are very key and important in this chapter, because Nelson Mandela is one chapter where a topic which is very favorite for the board examiners. So freedom in three stages is very important on one aspect. Focus on how Mandela's and understanding of freedom evolved throughout his life, from a personal goal to a universal cause, in the three stages. Second one is the twin obligations that are discussed. Discuss Mandela's belief in the dual responsibility of individuals, one to their family and community, and another to fight for the freedom of others. The oppressed and the oppressor. Highlight Mandela's powerful view that both the oppressed and the oppressor are imprisoned, and the consequences of perpetuating injustice. And the next one that should be focused is important quotes. Be sure to include key quotes that illustrate Mandela's philosophical views, particularly regarding freedom, sacrifice, and reconciliation. Chapter 3. Two stories about flying. His first flight. Summary. A young seagull sits on the edge of a cliff, terrified to fly. His family, including his parents and siblings, encourage him to take the leap, but he refuses, paralyzed by fear. The seagull's parents try to motivate him by offering food if he flies, but he doesn't respond. As he watches his younger siblings take off, he becomes more and more anxious. Eventually, when hunger forces him to act, he spreads his wings and soars through the sky, realizing the beauty of flight. Here, an aspect that a previous year board question that was asked focused on how parental acts, like how the young seagull's mother came near to the tip of the cliff and then made her child learn to fly. That was a question that was asked in one of the CBSE exams, previous year exams, where parental acts, do you think whether it's something that is right or wrong? In this chapter, the characters are the young seagull. Initially scared of flying, he symbolizes any individual afraid to take risks. His journey from fear to courage is central to the story. The seagull's mother and father, representing encouragement and tough love, they push the young seagull to overcome his fear and take flight. The young seagull's siblings, they represent the more carefree attitude of the other birds, showing the contrast in behavior between those who fear and those who are fearless. Major themes and symbols. Fear and courage is one. The young seagull's fear of flight and his eventual courage to fly reflect the universal human experience of overcoming challenges. The second theme focuses on family support. The parents' persistence in encouraging the seagull represents the role of family in pushing individuals to achieve their potential dreams or the potential abilities. Flight as symbolism. Flying acts as a symbolism to freedom, growth, and independence, with the seagull's successful flight marking a coming age of moment. Exam point of view. These are the following major points that you should focus on while preparing for your exam. Focus on the transformation of the seagull from a fearful creature to a confident one. Discuss how the family plays a key role in his development and the symbolism of flight in the context of personal growth. Part 2. The Black Aeroplane. Summary. A pilot is flying through a dangerous storm and is disoriented in the heavy rain and poor visibility. He decides to follow a mysterious black plane that appears out of nowhere, guiding him through the storm to safety. When he lands and tries to find the pilot of the black aeroplane, no one can identify it, leaving the mystery unresolved. Characters: the pilot, the protagonist of the story. His bravery and resilience on instinct drive the narrative. He decides to fly through a dangerous storm despite the risks, and his faith in the mysterious aeroplane keeps his calm. The mysterious black aeroplane, a figure who appears out of nowhere, guiding the pilot to safety. The identity of this figure remains a mystery, leaving room for various interpretations about faith, fate, and divine intervention. Major themes and symbols that one must focus in this chapter are courage and risk taking. The pilot's decision to fly through the storm reflects the theme of courage in the face of danger. The second theme is the mysterious helper. The black aeroplane symbolizes an unknown force that offers guidance and protection. It raises questions about fate, destiny, and unseen forces that help us in times of need. Faith and trust is the third theme that focus is majorly focused on in this chapter. The pilot's resilience on the not resilience, I'm sorry. The pilot's reliance on the black aeroplane reflects themes of trust in the unknown and faith in guidance of others, even when the identity of the source of that help is unclear. The point that one must focus on in an exam are: focus on the suspense in the story, the mystery surrounding the black aeroplane, and how the story explores themes of courage, risk taking, and trust in unseen or unforeseen forces. Chapter 4: From the Diary of Anne Frank. Summary. Anne Frank, a Jewish girl hiding from the Nazis during World War II, writes about her life in a secret annex. Through her diary, we get a glimpse into her thoughts, fears, dreams, and personal reflections that she writes about herself. She writes about the challenges of living in hiding, the relationships with the people around her, and her desire for a better world. Despite the hardships, Anne maintains a sense of hope and writes with remarkable maturity for her age. Characters. The first character we see is the narrator herself, Anne Frank. She is the narrator and central figure. Anne is a 13-year-old girl who documents her life in hiding. Her diary is filled with deep reflections of human nature, love, and her personal growth. She emerges as a symbol of resilience and hope amidst adversity. Otto Frank is another character who is Anne's father, who is portrayed as a loving and wise figure. He is one of the few people Anne truly respects and admires. Edith Frank, Anne's mother, whose relationship with Anne is strained. Anne's diary often reflects her feelings of disappointment and distance from her mother. Margaret Frank, Anne's older sister, who is described as quiet and reserved. Anne often compares herself to Margaret, feeling overshadowed by her sister's calm demeanor. Other annex inhabitants, the people hiding with Anne, including the other family, closer family, Freds, contribute to the complex dynamics of life in hiding. The themes and symbols that are majorly focused on in this chapter that the students might find it very difficult or helpful while writing an exam, these are the points that one must focus on. Resilience and hope. Despite the terrifying circumstances, Anne's writing reflects her inner strength and hope for a better future. The second one that focuses is human relationships. Anne's reflection on the people she lives with provide deep insights into human behavior, love, and conflict under pressure. Freedom and captivity is the third theme that is majorly seen in this chapter. The physical confinement of the annex contrasts with Anne's desire for freedom, both literally and metaphorically, through self expression and independence. The point that one must focus for an exam is, or are, focus on Anne's development as a writer and a person, discuss the themes of hope, human conflict, and the impact of war on everyday life. Analyze how Anne's in relationship with with her family and other evolved throughout the diary. And also note that this is a diary that so in the CBSE exams there can be questions coming from this chapter to write you imagine yourself to be in the shoes of Anne Frank. Imagine yourself as Anne and write a diary entry or write a diary entry on how you will go about your day in your life. Chapter 6, Glimpses of India. A Baker from Goa. Part 1. Summary. This chapter takes us to the coastal village life of Goa, where baking is an integral part of culture. The story revolves around the baker, who is essential figure in Goan life, making various kinds of bread, including the traditional poi and pav. This baker's presence is ubiquitous, from his daily visits to the houses to the nostalgia and customs associated with the bakery. The story highlights the role of bakers in the social life of Goa, bringing people together during festivals and daily routines. The following are the characters who are seen in this part. The baker, the central figure of the story, who is skilled in his trade. He is part of the larger community and is depicted as an important figure whose work is tied to the traditions and celebrations of the village. 2. The narrator's family. The narrator reflects on the daily life of the baker and the role his family plays in consuming and enjoying the bread. There's a board question on the narrator's childhood compared to Mandela's childhood from the chapter Long Walk to Freedom. The question is about how the narrator in a baker from Goa experiences his childhood in contrast or in comparison to Mandela's freedom during his childhood in A Long Walk to Freedom. So students must focus on these aspects as well. Major keys, themes and symbols that one must focus are cultural tradition. The baker's role in Goan life symbolizes the preservation of tradition and the connection between food, family and culture. Number 2, nostalgia. The narrator looks back fondly on the simpler times, evoking nostalgia for traditional customs. Number 3, community and bonding. The baker is not just a vendor who sells the bread. He is a part of the community, connecting people through the breads he bakes. From an exam point of view, students must focus on the importance of bakers in Goan society and how their profession has been passed down through generations. Discuss the nostalgic tone of the narrator in the story and how the baker symbolizes tradition and community. Part 2, Coorg. Summary. Coorg is also known as Kodagu, is a beautiful district in Karnataka famous for its scenic views, coffee plantations and rich cultural history. The chapter describes the natural beauty of the region, including its coffee estates, rivers and forests. The people of Coorg are portrayed as brave and resilient, with a martial tradition. The story gives insights into the lifestyle of Coorgi people and their connection to nature, their customs, such as their love for coffee and the bravery associated with their warrior culture, as they are the only community who are allowed to carry arms or guns without license. Characters. The Coorgi people, described as brave, resilient, and deeply connected to their land, The Kurgis are known for their martial traditions and hospitality as well. Number 2, the author. Through the author's perspective, we get a vivid and variety of description of Kurg's natural beauty and people. Coming to the themes and symbols that one must focus, the first one is nature and beauty. Kurg's lush landscapes symbolize the connection between nature and human life. Number 2, bravery and culture. The Kurgis' martial traditions and their unique customs reflect themes of resilience, bravery, and cultural pride. Number 3, coffee and tradition. Coffee symbolizes the region's heritage and importance as a cultural and economic resource. From an exam point of view, students must focus on the geographical features of Kurg and its significance as a tourist destination. Also, discuss the Kurgi people's martial culture and their connection to nature, especially their love for coffee. Another point that the students must focus on is how well the Kurgi people are maintaining their hospitality, and how the Kurgi people's bravery and courage reflects in the Indian society. Chapter 7, Mijbil the Otter. Summary. This story recounts the experiences of the author Gavin Maxwell and his pet otter, Mijbil. After returning to England, Maxwell decides to get an otter, which he names Mijbil. Mijbil, who was originally from Iraq, shows unusual behavior, but over time, Maxwell and Mijbil form a strong bond. The otter's playful antics and intelligence reveal the depth of the human-animal relationship, highlighting the joy and challenges of keeping a wild animal as a pet. The characters in this story are Gavin Maxwell, who is the author and narrator of the story, who is deeply fascinated by animals, especially the otter. Mijbil. Mijbil is the otter. It's the name of the otter, whose playful nature and enduring behavior bring joy to Maxwell's life. His curious antics show the intelligence of wild animals in the story. Gavin Maxwell, suffering from the sorrow and loss of his own pet, gets this new pet to have this enlightened, encouraging, and fascination for animals in his life. The themes and symbols of this story are human-animal bond. The story highlights the deep connection between humans and animals, emphasizing how animals can become part of a person's life. Number 2, wildlife and freedom. Mijbil's transition from a wild animal to a pet symbolizes the complexities of taming wild creatures. Joy and responsibility is the third theme in this chapter, which is majorly seen. While Mijbil brings happiness, caring for a wild animal also comes with challenges and responsibilities. From the exam point of view, students must focus on the relationship between Maxwell and Mijbil, discussing the challenges and rewards of having a pet otter. You can also analyze the themes of freedom and captivity, as well as the emotional connection formed between humans and animals. Cross-chapter questions can be asked in board exams from these themes related to freedom and captivity, from this chapter to something related to a tiger in zoo, where freedom and captivity is explored in both the in the poem The Tiger in the Zoo as well as in the chapter Mijbil the Otter. Another thing where a cross-textual question can be asked is Mijbil the Otter and the chapter from where the Tricky the dog is there. There can be a question coming from A Triumph of Surgery as well as Mijbil the Otter, asking a cross-cultural questions whether Having pets is something that is rewarding, or does it have any challenges? Is it, and the form connection between humans and animals is also discussed, telling you to differentiate or write the pros and cons of it. So students must keep all these points in mind. Chapter 8, Madam Rides the Bus. Summary. The story revolves around Valli, a young, curious girl from a small village whose dream of exploring the world beyond her home is true one day. So, what she does is she secretly boards a bus to the nearby town. During her journey, she experiences a range of emotions, including excitement and wonder at the seeing of new things around the place, in the surroundings, as she travels. However, the journey takes a sharp turn when Valli witnesses a cow's death on the way back, which leads to realization about the realities of life and death. Valli's innocence and curiosity are the central themes of this story. The characters in this story are Valli, the protagonist, a young girl full of curiosity, wants to know a lot of things about the trip to the town she's taking, and also she's a very independent girl. She travels on her own. Her journey symbolizes the thirst for knowledge and the desire to explore. Another character we see is the bus conductor, a very friendly, understanding figure who helps Valli during her journey, despite her being alone and so young. A third character that we see is the the young cow. This cow, on her way while she is going to the town, this cow is happily running here and there, going about the roads, and on the way when Valli takes a trip back to her house, she witnesses the harsh realities of life, that death is inevitable, as she sees this cow lying dead on the road with the legs widespread. That Valli must this represents the harsh realities of life, that Valli must come to terms with whatever the life throws at her. The major themes and symbols that are shown in this chapter are innocence and curiosity. Valli's eagerness to explore symbolizes youthful curiosity and the desire to understand the world. Another theme that is seen is life and death. The story explores the theme of life's unpredictability and the inevitability of death, which Valli learns about during her bus ride. The third theme that we can see is independence. Valli's solo journey also represents her growing independence and desire to make decisions for herself. From exam point of view, the following points can be focused. One can focus on Valli's character and her sense of adventure. Discuss how the story conveys lessons about life and death, as well as Valli's personal growth and realization about the complexities of life. Chapter 9, The Sermon at Benares. The characters in this story are very simple. Kisa Gautami, a grieving mother who represents the common human reaction to loss and suffering. The second character we see is Buddha, the enlightened teacher who imparts wisdom about suffering, death, and nature of life. His teachings are meant to guide Kisa Gautami and others towards spiritual understanding. The summary of the chapter goes like this. So in this chapter, Buddha's first sermon is told through the story of Kisa Gautami, a woman who experiences the death of her child and seeks a remedy from Buddha. Buddha teaches Kisa Gautami that death is a part of life and that everyone must face it. The sermon explains the concept of impermanence and the path of enlightenment, emphasizing the importance of accepting suffering and a natural part of existence. Now coming to the themes and symbols that are there in this chapter. Suffering and acceptance is a major theme. Buddha's teaching focuses on the acceptance of suffering as a natural part of life, encouraging people to find peace in the face of loss. Impermanence is another theme that we can see. The concept of everything in life is temporary and death is an inevitable part of existence. Spiritual enlightenment is another theme that can be explored. The chapter presents Buddha's teachings as a path to enlightenment, offering a way to transcend human suffering. From the point of exam, our students can focus on the message of Buddha's first sermon and how it teaches acceptance of suffering and the impermanence of life. You can also discuss the impact of his teachings on Kissa Gautami and their relevance to human existence. Students can start writing and practice continuously on the exam focused points. Chapter 10, The Proposal. The characters goes like this. Lomov, a nervous, high-strung man who wants to marry Natalia but is easily distracted and provoked by minor disagreements. He gets easily distracted by these small arguments or disagreements that Natalia brings up. Natalia is the second character. She is a strong-willed woman whom Lomov wishes to marry. She is quick to argue and shows little interest in Lomov's proposal, focusing instead of trivial matters. Chibukov, Natalia's father, who acts as a mediator between Lomov and Natalia. Though he is also caught up in their absurd arguments, he still looks out for both. The summary goes like this. This is a comedic one-act play by Anton Chekhov, a very famous Russian writer, that centers around the character of Lomov, who wants to propose his neighbor Natalia. However, their meeting quickly devolves into a series of absurd arguments, including disputes over land and dogs. The play highlights the ridiculousness of their bickering and the way that trivial matters, as in silly matters, can overshadow a few important decisions. The themes and symbols of this chapter goes like this. Marriage and relationships is a major theme. The play humorously critiques the complexities of relationships and the trivialities that often get in the way of meaningful connections. Number 2, social expectations. The characters are driven by social pressures and expectations, highlighting the absurdities of societal norms around marriage. Number 3, irony and humor. The play is full of situational irony, where characters argue over inconsequential matters while missing the larger point of Lomov's proposal. From the point of exam, you can focus on the irony in the play, the absurdity of characters' arguments, and how the humor reflects on relationships and marriage. Analyze the characters' motivations and the play's commentary on social expectations. With this, the prose part of the text, the first flight, is completed. General revision tips for the exams are as follows. Students, you can create mind maps, where you can create mind maps for each lesson and poems, identifying these major themes, characters, and important quotes. They will help you in quick revision before the exam. Practice with sample papers. Use the sample papers and previous year papers to practice both writing and comprehension skills under the time constraints. This will help in improving speed and efficiency during the actual exam. Number 3 is you can set up mock tests. Before actually going to the main exam, you can set up a mock test environment and simulate the exam for reading comprehension, writing, and literature. Number 4 is peer discussion. Discuss tricky topics with classmates which you find difficult. For example, any grammar topic or any word or meaning which you find it difficult with your classmates and fellow beings. This can clarify and help your doubts and it also reinforces your learning. Thank you and happy learning.
Shine, walking on beams of light.